Happy Friday, everyone. We all feel enthusiastic and energized after that wonderful quiz. So you may kind of like ixnay the quizzes and say, yeah, they are what they are, but you're going to miss them when they're gone. We've only got one more quiz left, and that's going to be in week 14. And then you're just going to be kind of like, I really want a quiz every Friday. I just want to test my knowledge. And, you're going to, leave and you're never going to have that again. So enjoy them while you have them. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's what I'm going to tell you. Speaking of things that we're going to be doing for the vast few times, we got our final data analytics assignment, our final Alteryx and our final data analytics assignment that we're going to be talking about today. So before we start, I do want to mention a couple things. So just keep in mind that we do have, come on in, Andy. I don't know. I still have this tendency to want to call you Andy, even though I know you go by Andrew. It's just the whole Andy Richter thing. I apologize. It's nothing personal. It's just habit.
Go by Andy too.
Okay. Well, that makes it easy then. All right. Okay. So as I was saying, so I talked about this on Wednesday, and I want to reiterate. Your deliverable for your AI assignment, your research assignment. I've got an AI assignment in AIS, and I get those confused. I apologize. Your deliverable for your research project is technically due next Friday. And the due date for this one is set up to kind of accommodate that, because the due date for this assignment, this data analytics assignment in Alteryx, it's not due until the Friday of right before Thanksgiving break. So Friday of week 14. I did make the comment on Wednesday that if you wanted to submit your research project deliverable 3 a week late, up to a week late, I would accommodate that. Does everybody remember what else I said with respect to that? Yeah, I can't push it. I won't push it past that. Okay, so no late submissions. If you do take advantage of the fact that you've got a little bit of extra time, that is the only time you can take advantage of that. If you say, Dr. Barnes, can I submit it during the middle of Thanksgiving break? I will say no. And so that's what I want you to be aware of, is that I'm giving you a little bit of an extension on that. I'm not giving any other additional extensions. The reason that's important is that it sounds like I'm giving you an extra week to work on stuff, but you also got this assignment that you've got to think about that's going to be due during the end of week 14. So if you wait to do your deliverable 3 for your semester research project, then you're going to have 2 assignments bumping up against each other, which, to be honest, would not be the first time I've done that to you in this class. I think I had one week where I had 3 assignments all due on the same day. And so does that just get obnoxious and annoying after a while? Or do you just learn to manage it once you're in the graduate level? I see a lot of shrugging. Yeah, a lot of shrugging. It's like, it is what it is. We're graduate students. We've come to expect it. So let's talk a little bit about this assignment. So this is this is kind of a wrap-up assignment I did several years ago. I think 2022 or 2022 or 2021, I don't remember. But the idea behind it was I want to create a fictitious company, and it's in the fictitious state of G-Coach, which you can figure out what city I was making fun of if you look at the team names that are listed, or not the team names, the city names that are all based on teams from that particular city. Anyway, that's me trying to be clever and realizing that that was nowhere near being clever, So you'll have to cut me a break on that one. Anyway, this is a payroll analysis, and the whole idea behind this project initially was that I wanted students to be able to choose from one of 3 different analytics tools. I wanted them to be able to choose from Excel, Idea, or Alteryx. And the whole goal was in 2021, we were going to have all 3 of those that we've done analysis in, and then they were going to be able to kind of pick and choose. They could even use multiple tools if they thought that was more appropriate. So in 2021, when we did the analysis, Alteryx broke down after like the first try. Then 2022, it broke down again. And then 2023, we got to this assignment and it broke down. Last year was the first year we actually had a stable Alteryx client. But I noticed something interesting last year is that last year, basically, or in previous years before that, for the students who were able to do it, whenever they had the ability to work in Alteryx, that was what they preferred to work in. I think there was a long preference because, first of all, it's a new tool. They want to learn more about it. Secondly, it is much more effective to operate in than Idea. I say this as somebody who loves Idea, and I think Idea has got a lot of advantages to it, but Idea is not very user interface friendly, and so the queries can be a little bit challenging, whereas Alteryx tend to be a lot more adaptive and easier to understand. So I just changed this to an Alteryx assignment, and that's what we're going to be using for this activity. Now, this is very similar to the type of payroll analysis that I did back when I worked in analytics. In fact, I based it off of some concepts that I talked about. It's a simplified version, but the ideas still hold. Is that it's very similar to what we did back in forensics when we would do some forensic payroll analysis. So a few things to note. There's some details that you're going to have to note. Obviously, for a full analytics assignment, then you're going to have to be responsible for both data cleaning and validation, so ETL, and the analysis itself. The ETL is give you some very explicit instructions. You provide control totals with the files, and you need to provide validation for all those control totals. So in addition to cleaning the files and making sure everything looks good, you do need to be able to identify whether or not your totals match up to the what you provided. If you do that correctly, it should match. There is a bit of a caveat to this. Okay, I created this activity in Excel, and I was trying to round numbers to the nearest decimal place and export them into Alteryx. And when I used the original versions of Alteryx, it worked just fine. Last year, the float variable on Alteryx was rounding to however many decimals I thought appropriate. So I was getting some really, really weird rounding. We're talking like rounding to 10 decimal places. I think the current float has been adjusted to go to 2 decimal places by default. But you may notice that some of your control totals will be really, really weird looking. It's possible your control totals will be weird looking. So you may look at your ID hash or ID number and the hash total for that. Actually, the ID hash number wouldn't be an issue. So the net pay might be an issue, or the gross pay. You may see a gross pay number of $3,648,785 and 0.0000000000000789 cents. Okay. You can ignore everything past the second decimal place. If that does come up, basically, I'm just trying to get close. For the hash totals, if you come up with a number that's just a few cents off, I'm not terribly concerned about that, especially on the dollar amounts. But we do want to have my validation consistent with that. Some of the other information is kind of given for context here, some details that you will want to read through to make sure you understand everything set up. I would encourage you to go back and review some of the instructions that we talked about in our earlier Alteryx assignments, as this was based on those early assignments, particularly for setting up dates that are not formatted in date form. So your import is going to come in, and you're going to have a date field that is not truly a date field. It's left as a string field, and you need to remember how to convert that, which that was a while back when we first did that. That was week 7. So we're talking about over a month ago when we first did that conversion. Also, just as a reminder, we talked a little bit about this last week. For importing these files, they are not CSV or Excel files. These are text delimited files. Does everybody remember what the process for importing text or for importing non-CSV or Excel files was? Okay, so you have to go to the data and you have to go to the import tool from the data tool. So yeah, that's one of the options for Alteryx. You can't just use the input browser or the input tool within the Alteryx workflow. It will not work for anything other than CSV and Excel files. So make sure you import them using the cloud tool, on the data tab. So let's go ahead and talk really quickly about your instructions. So first of all, you've got your data validation, cleaning and validation. I did provide some very specific details about what screen captures I want you to take. I actually just added those earlier today to try to make them a little bit clearer. But for the Alteryx workflow, anything that you do with respect to validation or queries, you are going to take screen captures of all of those and put them in a separate Word document. All right. And so there's going to be one file that's going to be a Word document that is just going to be your screen captures. There's some additional details in Part C, which I'll get to that in just a second, that you'll also include in that file. But for the most part, you'll have one document that's all screen captures to show your analysis and how you performed it. Then you're going to go and join your files together, and you're going to make any mentions in your report. So that probably tells that you're going to be developing a report. Part C, you're going to develop 6 queries on payroll data. Now you may say, what 6 queries, Dr. Barnes? The answer is whatever queries you think are appropriate. This is an open-ended assignment. You do not need to follow any queries. I will encourage you to note, first of all, there are errors in the data. I did seed errors in the data. Secondly, you can kind of find some hints of where you probably should look into the data, because those are likely the areas that I put if you read the instructions. Some of those instructions will probably tell you this is an area worth investigation because Dr. Barnes took the time to mention it. Thirdly, unless you're really, really, really lucky, it is unlikely you will find all of the errors, okay? And that is fine. I'm not looking for you to find all of the errors in the data. I would like for you to find some of them. If you hit 6 queries and like, everything looks good, there's no errors, might want to dig a little bit deeper and think, did I actually do some well-developed queries, or was I just dragging at the low-hanging fruit? And so I would expect you to find at least a few queries, but it's not required that you find all the queries, or all the errors. For context, I believe I put in about 8 errors into the data. And so could somebody find them if they did 20 different queries? Probably. If you want to take that on as a personal challenge, I'm not the judge, okay? I'm assuming that you have better things to do with your time than try to find all the errors in my reports. But that's something that's I'll leave up to you. Once you create those queries and you perform them, you're going to provide a description of the query, the tools that you use for the query, and the screen capture results. So that needs to all go into that document of screen captures, not just the screen capture, but also description of the query and the tool that you used. And this is very, very explicit instructions that I provided there. These are all going into that separate document. So you've got one document, screen captures, which also include the description of the query and the tool as well. And then you've got a report. Now, when I say brief, this is open-ended. For the most part, the reason I put brief report on the findings is simply because if I don't specify brief, people will just kind of go into a mad expostulation of everything that they want to go put out there. So I do think that you can do this pretty reasonably within 2 or 3 pages. Okay, it is not a 10-page report. It's not meant to be that level of detail. If you put a half page and think that's your report, that's probably not sufficient. I would say endeavor for at least 1 to 2 pages, but I think you can do it efficiently within 2 to 3. That's your second document. And keep in mind that your report also needs to include if you find any unmatched records up here. So that's going to be something that you would include in requirement D. So clarify, there are 2 documents that are deliverables for this assignment. One is the one that I talk about in parts A and C, which are your screen captures and your description of the queries. The second one is your report, which contains the steps in B and D. Those are the only 2 documents that you should submit, okay? You noticed that I bolded and underlined this. That means it's serious. The only way I could have gotten more serious is to italicize it, okay? Bolded and underlined, do not put any part of the data files in your submission. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. We're at the point now in the semester that I expect you to be following my instructions to the letter, okay? If you throw any part of the data file in your submission, that will be an automatic 0 for the assignment, okay? I'm going to go ahead and throw that clarification out. That's my expectation. No data file detail in the assignment. That's not something you would submit in the real world. The deliverable that we would have would not include the data. All I want are those 2 documents. That's it. That's what your submission should be. Okay, that's what I want to be grading. All right. Are there any questions on this? Okay, so we have 30 minutes left in class. I'm going to let you work for about the next 25 minutes, and then we'll debrief at the end of class if there's any issues that commonly arise. All right, just checking in. How are things going, guys? Validation going pretty well, data cleaning? All right. So I didn't see or hear many issues when they were going through and asking questions. So it looks like for once I explained an assignment well. But if you have any questions or have any concerns or need any clarification on something, feel free to reach out. Again, just as a reminder, this is not due next week. This is due the Friday before Thanksgiving break. So you do have a little bit of time to work on this, but just be wary when you're pairing this with the semester research project deliverable that those are going to have similar due dates. So you do need to finish both of them within a timely manner. Anyway, we are back in for AI on Monday. Have a good weekend.